Yes and no, because people and landscapes are still just marks on paper. So there's, in one sense, a great similarity, but there's something very peculiar that goes on, which is if you put the marks down on a piece of paper to make a picture of a house or a tree, then even if the proportions are slightly wrong, it still looks correct. But there's some magic about the human brain and perception, which means that we're incredibly sensitive to looking at how the arrangements of parts of the human face are. And also, if any of you have ever tried drawing pictures of people, sometimes even if you quite realistically draw limbs and things, certain postures that people are in just don't look right if you represent them. They look somehow wrong. So yeah, there is a difference. You have to get into a sort of, I have to get into a kind of macro mode where I look at particular relationships in a different way. The other thing which comes out of your talk as well is that there's a really strong effect, which is not to do with portraits and landscapes, but between painting and writing. If I'm really into writing, because being an academic I'm supposed to write, publish or perish is the mantra of academics. So when I'm really into writing, then it's not very easy to produce visual art. And sometimes when I'm very into the visual art side, it's quite difficult to do the writing as well. So they do tend to be activities, I find, which are hard to integrate at times. But portrait painting and landscapes, no, they're similar. Just like. Thank you. Good question.
Have you revisited any of the places from your original journey?
Yes.
How are they different?
Oh, goodness, yes. It's interesting that, like, I showed you at the end a drawing of Benares, and I have pictures of Benares which I drew when I first went to India, so from 1977 till now. What I find is that everything changes. In fact, nothing stays the same. The only things that stay the same were the things that were changing anyway, which is the way the light looks, the way the sun rises, the way the mist moves. Those things stay the same, but all the material objects which are produced by humanity constantly change. And even the things that looked timeless when I first went to Benares, they've fallen down quite a lot during the last 20 or 30 years. So that timeless objects also keep changing, it seems. It's quite remarkable. But light doesn't change at all. The way that the sunlight dapples and things like that, that stays the same. I like that. Another question? Yeah, one more. Oh, Kevin.
Do you receive prior training for your art, or were you exploring all the way?
Yeah, I did some prior training, but only at school. I did art at school and kind of high school. My mother was a painter, so she used to point out things to me about painting as well. Although she died when I was 11, so she stopped training me in art after that. Well, not necessarily, but I mean, by actual demonstration. But I think it's still in me somewhat, that's an element in me, that it's something which comes to me from my mother's side. But I didn't go to art school. So I don't have that sort of formal training, no.
Where are some of the places that you'd like to go to paint or draw in the future?
Well, oh my goodness.
Top two.
My top two places at the moment would be, I'd love to go to Central Australia and draw the desert landscapes and the interior of the country. And I'm also quite fascinated at the moment by Japan. I'd love to go to Japan at the moment and do some pictures there.
The urban areas? The urban areas?
Urban and rural, I think both. I mean, I don't know because I haven't actually been there. But I've been looking at a number of things to do with Japan at the moment, and one of the fascinating things I've found about coming to live in Singapore, ironically, was that it's given me a much more clear picture of the difference between Japanese culture, Korean culture, and different Chinese cultures as well. So I've got a clearer picture of these things at the moment, and at the moment I feel more fascinated by Japan and Korea than I ever did sitting in Australia. Although I'm still quite fascinated by Singapore too.
Have you ever experimented with other mediums, like sculpture or music?
Yes. I like to experiment, definitely. I haven't done a lot of sculptures, but I did do the normal sort of try and make pots and clay ceramics and things like that. I also greatly enjoyed when I was doing op art. I also used to make three-dimensional constructions, so sculptural artworks. And we also used to do in those days sort of installation pieces and things like that. So I was quite into that sort of light shows and that sort of thing, kinetic art. But more recently I haven't done a lot of things like that. Thank you. Thank you for all your questions.